Oh boy, I think that there'll be some disagreement for this one. Iron Man 2 had a lot to live up to. I mean, it's a sequel to one of the greatest superhero movies at the time. I think that people view this one to be the worst out of the Iron Mans. Iron Men? Well, whatever, you know what I mean. I would have agreed going into this movie, but after watching it again, well, you'll see. Today's movie is Iron Man 2. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I've probably seen this movie the most out of all the MCU movies. I always remember seeing it on TV and it would just be on. But when I watched it, it would always just be bits and pieces, never the full movie. I've only sat down to watch this movie in its entirety maybe 3 times, one of them being this review. Anyways, let's get into that plot. We see a broadcast of Tony revealing that he is Iron Man. A Russian man named Anton Vanko is watching the broadcast. He dies, and his son Ivan Vanko mourns for his loss. Ivan is then shown pulling out blueprints and building an arc reactor. 6 months later, Tony has kept the peace in the world and puts on the Stark Expo for his father's legacy. Tony is then called to a Senate hearing to discuss the Iron Man suit. Tony and Rhodes, now played by Don Cheadle, defend letting the suit stay in Tony's hands and not the government's. Justin Hammer, CEO of a weapons corporation, is at the hearing and argues against Stark keeping the suit. Tony makes a fool of the Senate and Justin and leaves, keeping the suit. We see Tony change out a cartridge in his arc reactor and find out he is slowly dying. Tony resigns from CEO of Stark Industries and appoints Pepper to CEO. To sign over the company, a lady named Natalie Rushman comes over, and Tony hires her as his personal assistant. Pepper, Natalie, Tony, and Happy go to Monaco to watch the World Grand Prix. Tony decides since he's dying, he is going to go and drive in the Grand Prix. He takes a car that he sponsors and starts the race. We find out that Ivan has traveled to Monaco, and using his arc reactor and electric whips, he attempts to kill Tony. Pepper and Happy rush out to help Tony, who then defeats Ivan. Tony goes and questions Ivan and finds out that their dads designed the arc reactor together. Ivan goes to prison, but soon escapes due to the help of some guards, who take him to Justin. Justin wants Ivan to build him Iron Man suits. Ivan agrees, and they head back to the States. Tony's birthday comes around, and he decides to get super drunk and have a little fun because it might be his last birthday. After the party getting out of control, Rhodes goes and puts on the Mark II suit and attempts to stop Tony. After a fight, Rhodey leaves with the suit, and Tony deals with the repercussions the next morning. Rhodey brings the suit to an air base where they have Justin weaponize it. Tony eats donuts, and Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D., comes by to tell Tony that he messed up. We find out that Natalie is actually a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Natasha Romanoff, sent to observe Tony. Nick Fury tells Tony that there is a cure for his condition and gives him the supplies he needs to come up with it. Tony watches his dad's old tapes and figures out that his dad had hidden a formula for the new element since he could not make it himself. Tony makes the element and he replaces his reactor with a more suitable, less killing one. Instead of suits, Ivan has been making drones for Justin for the Stark Expo. Justin gets upset at Ivan for not making exactly what he wanted. Luckily for him, he has Rhodes and his suit for the expo. Tony finds out that Ivan is alive after he calls Tony saying he'll get revenge. Tony flies to the expo and Ivan tries to kill Tony with the drones and Rhodey's suit, who he has gained access to. Tony and the drones fight and soon Rhodey regains control thanks to Agent Romanoff. Tony and Rhodes destroy the last of the drones, but Ivan comes in to kill them both. He is almost successful, but Tony and Rhodes use teamwork and friendship to stop Ivan. The drones are rigged to blow and Tony rescues Pepper in the nick of time and they kiss on a roof. Tony is brought in by Nick Fury telling him that he won't be a part of the Avengers initiative. Finally, Tony and Rhodes are then awarded for their heroism. Okay, there are a lot of great scenes in this movie. I think that the Senate hearing is super fun and entertaining. And I really like the racetrack fight. I love the scene where Ivan escapes prison, or just whenever Justin and Ivan are together. But there are parts of this movie that I really don't like. I think that the birthday party scene is really boring and the fight doesn't really mean anything. Rhodey just takes the suit and Tony just feels a little depressed for a bit. I also think that the final fight is pretty weak. Tony flies around for too long and the fight with Ivan is just way too short. But if I had to give this movie anything, I will say that the casting is amazing. Obviously Rob Downey Jr. is as great as ever in this movie. He has so many funny scenes like the Senate hearing, when he's boxing, and whenever he's talking to Pepper. I think that they work together a lot more in this movie than the first one. I don't think that there was a lot of build-up for them getting together in the end, though. I know that they did a bit in the first movie, but I didn't really think they did anything here. Pepper was mad at Tony for the majority of the movie, and I feel like it was shoehorned in for them to be together. Don Cheadle replaced Terrence Howard as Colonel James Rhodes. I didn't really talk about Rhodey in the first movie, but that's because he didn't really do anything. No offense to Terrence Howard, but I like Don Cheadle a lot more. Plus, I think he has one of the best introductions as a recasting ever, in my opinion.
Hey, buddy. Didn't expect to see you here.
Look, it's me. I'm here. Deal with it. Let's move on.
I just
Drop it. All right.
But can I say, I just love Justin Hammer. Sam Rockwell, hats off to you. Robert Downey Jr. made Iron Man 1 amazing, and in my opinion, Sam Rockwell rivals Downey's appearance in this movie too. They're both so charismatic. I honestly can't decide who's better in this film. He steals the show in every scene he's in, except towards the end of the film, he gets a little stale. I wish Justin and Tony were in more scenes together because they really play off each other beautifully. I love how Justin talks down to Tony by calling him Anthony. I love how he's cocky and he thinks he's better than Tony. I love everything about this man. A+, Mr. Rockwell. I don't think you get enough credit for this role.
Is that Justin Hammer?
Right leg up.
How did Hammer get in the game?
Arm up.
Justin, you're on TV. Focus up.
Okay, give me a left switch. Left is going to turn to the right. Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Wow. Yeah, I'd say most countries 5-10 years away. Hammer Industries 20.
I'd like to point out that that test pilot survived.
I think
Если меня убьют, не будут и меня. Лучше умереть, чем жить в вашем мире.
Okay. Do you speak English? Because I can get a translator.
Jack, is that a helmet? Doesn't look like a helmet to me. How are you supposed to get a head in there? Jack, could you put your head in there? No. Try to put your head in there. No, go ahead. Try to put your head in there. See, Ivan, he can't put his head in there. That's not a helmet. It's a head.
Слишком много говоришь.
I don't know if you know this, but I don't speak Russian.
Shomai Maro Tuma. Wakuraka? Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!
I liked Ivan sometimes. He has a lot of good lines and scenes.
If you can make God bleed, then people will cease to believe in him. And there will be blood in the water, and the sharks will come.
But he doesn't really do much for being the main antagonist. I think his electric whips are super cool though. He's just a man who wants revenge. And his bird.
I want my bird.
A bird? You want a bird?
I want my bird.
I can get you a bird. I can get you 10 birds.
I want my bird.
I think the film had a fun tone throughout its entirety, until Tony has to make a new element. It gets a little serious because Tony will die if he doesn't, and he has daddy issues. I understand that he has to deal with all of that, but it's just a little jarring. The movie still had a bit of fun in those scenes though, so maybe there's hope. Nope, I feel like it was all lost during the Stark Expo when Tony has to fight all the drones. It's just boring and quick and doesn't really amount to much. I think the first fight with Ivan is fun because Tony was still cracking jokes and it didn't feel super serious. I don't know, I just feel like it could have been a lot better if they were more focused on the feel of the movie in its entirety. When I went into this review, I thought to myself, alright, Iron Man 2, not as good as the first one, blah blah blah. I will say it's not as good as Iron Man, but it's still a good movie. I enjoyed the comedy, the action, and all the returning characters alongside the new characters. I really enjoyed my time watching this movie. I had some problems with the end of the movie. I feel like the tone was lost during part of the movie, and the characters got a little stale. I still enjoyed it though, and I saw a lot of details I missed when I watched this movie the first few times. Like how Tony figured out the element was hidden in the globe, or whatever. I still don't really 100% understand. And I think Iron Man 2 is a good movie, and I think people should still realize that. I thought that this movie was going to be number 3, but after watching again, I enjoyed it a lot. It's going right after Iron Man and before The Incredible Hulk. I found myself enjoying this film, even though I have seen it a lot. There are some boring parts of the film, but I love the characters so much that they more than make up for the movie's low points. So that was Iron Man 2. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about it. I was rushed for time on this one, so I apologize on the video if it has a little bit of a lower quality to it. I had finals, work, and a lot of stuff that I had to get done, but it should be smooth sailing for the next couple weeks. I promise that I'll try to be more in depth for the next review. Speaking of which, what is next? Let's see. Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, and... Uh-oh.